All right, people keep popping in here, but we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like there already was a question, and yes, I will address that. Absolutely, we are going to be recording this and making it available to everybody who registered but did not attend. No problem. Right. So today, this webinar is going to be going over the automated and assisted dispatch. Okay, we were just in Vegas at the CLDA, and I know automation was a big hot button for everybody there. So we wanted to kind of show you how Accelerator has automation built into the system currently, and how you guys can take advantage of it immediately. Okay. So what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to bring up my screen. We're going to roll through some basic setup of the automated dispatch to show you how that looks and how you can build your own logic into it. And then from there, we're going to just go through actually assisted dispatching and automated dispatching some of these orders that I have on my board. And then, of course, at the very end, we can address any questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. So there's that little chat button up on the top of your screen. Go ahead and click that and type in your questions. I have a couple people from our team here as well who'll be able to help answer those questions as the meeting's going on, and we can continue to address those questions at the end of the call. So I'm going to bring up my screen. Hoping you guys can see that. If anybody can't see that, just go ahead and put that in the chat. So what we're going to do first, as I mentioned, is kind of go through some of the setup with this automated dispatch. What's really cool about this is you can really customize the logic and tweak it as you go to really make sure you're getting the most out of the system. So in the system here, we have the delivery center options. And in here, you may have recognized this newer tab on this screen. This is the actual automated dispatch setup. Now, in the default delivery center, we're going to have a little bit more options. I'm going to show you two different delivery centers and how they work, and just kind of show you what they look like. But first, basically what you're looking at on this screen are going to be the factors that the system is going to use to create that automation. So you have the ability here to use any of these factors. You can choose to, weight them all the same, or you can have things that you may feel are more important than others. So when I say that, what I mean is there is an equation that the system uses to determine a score. That equation is a score from 0 to 100. Then it's going to take it and multiply it by this multiplier, and then add base points based off of what you put in there. So at this point, with a 1 multiplier and a 1 base point, I can have a total score of 101 max for proximity. Now the next one would be a score of 201, because now I can multiply that 100 by 2 and then add that 1 base point. Now each one of these factors is going to get that option, so you can really kind of customize what they do. Now, I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what each does. And just so you guys know, at the end of this, if you are interested in going over this further, please reach out to one of your salesmen here. We'll be happy to help. We'll walk you through this, show you how to set this up in a little more depth. I just don't want to take too much time away from this webinar by going into the nitty-gritty of everything. So basically what we're looking at here with these score factors, we've got proximity. So proximity, of course, is who's the closest to the driver at this moment. Then you have vector. So the vector is what direction that driver is going. So maybe right now I'm closer, but the next driver might be closer in about 2 hours when that order is supposed to be picked up. So that's going to weigh that score a little bit different than proximity. Cargo capacity takes into consideration the capacity of that vehicle and driver, and then how much is already in their vehicle now. Cargo class, you may be familiar. Each vehicle has a cargo class rank when you create them. So if you do create a cargo class and you assign an order with a truck to a driver with a bike, they're going to get a terrible score versus a truck to a truck. Then you have preference multiplier. Every driver has a preference score that you can set up, and then use that as well for the score factor there. So if you have a driver who's been with you for 10 plus years and you trust them, they're always on time, they would get a higher score than somebody who may have just started and you're unsure exactly of the quality of their work. Tech capacity is whether or not they're using Mobile Tech Core or Mobile Tech Web. Obviously, with more tech capacity, they're going to get a higher score because they can do, more things. And then last but not least here is the optimization analysis. Now, in both of my delivery centers, this is going to be the most important setup for me here because I feel it provides the most value. Now, what the optimization analysis does, and I'll be able to get into that a little bit more when I show you, but it actually takes that individual order or group of orders, injects them into each one of those drivers' tours, and gives you added miles, added minutes, and actually creates, that route for that driver. And then obviously whatever driver that order has the least impact on will get the best score. And then down below, these two options are only available at the default delivery center. It's going to give you the option to determine what delivery center it's based off of. So you're going to have the client for the order or the driver that's assigned to that order, or you're assigning it to. And then the background service user, any order that's auto dispatched is going to have a background service user doing that. So when you actually open up the change log, you'll be able to see in that order that the actual system dispatched that order to the driver. Now, if I go to my other delivery center, now I have different score factors for each score. So different locations may require different values for each score. So you absolutely can customize that by delivery center, by location. So now once we have that set up, the next option we're going to go to is the operations drivers tab. So if I go ahead and pull up this driver, you're going to notice again, now we have two new tabs here, auto dispatch and working schedule. First thing here is the auto dispatch. So in here, you have, of course, the ability to just enable or disable a specific driver. We have that preference score that I had mentioned before. That is from 0 all the way to 100. Then you have max weight and pallet capacity. So again, as we were looking at that cargo capacity, this is where it's going to look into that and say, are we close to the max weight? Are we nowhere near the max weight? And determine those scores. And then, of course, pallet capacity. How many pallets can this hold? When you create a package, you have the option to mark if it's, how many pallets that package takes up. So this will tell you how many it can hold and go from there. Next, you see this little map here. This is actually the driver working area. Now you can do one of two things. You can either draw a radius here. So just put in however many miles that driver is going to work and select a point, and then it'll drop down that pin. Or the other option is draw. And with that, you can free draw anywhere in here. So if you want to surround a state, for example, you can go ahead and draw around the state of New Jersey. Anything outside of this shape will not be able to be dispatched to that driver. So, if it crosses the line, it will not move over to that driver. Next section is going to be the working schedule. So the working schedule determines when that driver is available for auto dispatch. If you have nothing in there and this box is not checked, that driver is available 24/7 according to the system. If you do want to put in a schedule, you just check that box and it's going to allow you to populate any time frames in here by hitting add, start time, and end time. Now, a lot of people do use this specifically for after hours dispatch. So basically, you can determine that working schedule to be, 6 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight. Now the driver's on the clock for auto dispatch. So instead of staffing an extra dispatcher overnight, you can just kind of let the auto dispatch do its thing and just automatically assign orders down to the driver. After you set up the driver, we're going to go ahead and go into service types. And now these three sections here are the most in-depth setup. Everything else is pretty simple, but I'll show you that in a second. Now, in the service type here, we have the auto dispatch / sequencing tab that will allow you to kind of create some customizations in here. So first, of course, is that service available to be auto dispatched or not? We have scope times. So now there are 3 levels of this automated dispatch. There's assisted dispatch, there's user-generated auto dispatch, and then there's fully automated dispatch. With the fully automated dispatch, it's going to look at this scope time and say, if that order is supposed to be picked up at 3 o'clock, it wouldn't dispatch that job until 2 o'clock. Now you can change those timeframes and determine how you want to do that, but it is an either or for target from or target to. Then you have becoming late. So becoming late means if just like those dispatch warning colors that you have on your dispatch board, if the order is 10 minutes away from becoming late, it's going to actually ask what the action should be based off of that. So at that point, you can either choose to leave it on the driver with no action, unassign it and let someone manually dispatch that job at that point, or reassign if you're fully automated and you don't need anybody else to touch that. What it's going to do is unassign it from that driver. It'll then go to reassign, but it'll never look at that driver again, as that driver was already becoming late and didn't do anything with that job. So it's going to move it to the next best. Unassigned, not accepted after. So what that means is the driver gets the order. If they don't accept it after 60 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and remove that from that driver as well. And then the last couple options over here are pickup and delivery stop dwell times. So if you have a new service in a new location, it's going to create a standard for each one of those places for about 120 seconds, 180 seconds in my setup. Now, of course, you could change that. And I do know we mentioned a lot of AI and machine learning in at the last show. So what the system actually does is it takes those dwell times. So if you go to that same location every day or every other day, it's going to learn how long you stay at that time and adjust that dwell time for the optimization and the auto dispatch. But for now, you'd be setting just the default for any new addresses that pop in. Then you have max driver distance scope miles. So pretty much exactly what it says. It's not going to allow the driver to go beyond 250 miles. And then, of course, max seconds. So basically, if the driver turns off their GPS, you can determine how long that driver can have their GPS off to still be considered for an order. Okay. And then down here, these options are really more for the optimization, so we'll get into that at a different time, but just know you can use this to help with the automated dispatch. If you have services that may have a more lenient time frame, it can create a larger window on those orders for you. From here, we're going to go through the last two options, which is vehicle types and package types. And essentially, this is really just enabled or disabled. And then here's that package, the pallets for those packages. So right underneath that enable disabled tab there, you have the pallets. So you can determine, is this one pallet? Is it 3 pallets? Basically, just to allow the system to know if the truck holds 4 pallets and this package is 2, it's only going to allow 2 orders with pallets on here to go through to that driver. And then finally, we have our vehicle types, which is right here. And once again, auto dispatch enabled or disabled. Then you set your cargo capacity sets right here. So how much weight, how many cubic feet, and of course, how many pallets can that vehicle hold. Like I said, brief walkthrough of this, the system setup there. Of course, as you need help with that, please feel free to reach out to anybody here. We all can help. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to go to the dispatch map or the dispatch board first and show you how this actually works. So right now, you see I've got 3 orders up top, and then I got a couple drivers down here who are rolling through their day. So now I got 3 orders that I need to assign to a driver. So first, what I'm going to do is just show you how this works with my score factors by using the assisted dispatch, and then I'll show you what happens. So now you can either do this at one-off orders, or you could do this with multiple. But what's happening right now is it's actually taking those jobs, injecting it into the tours. You're going to see the system working here, and it's going to let you know who's been suggested. But at this point, it's going to show me why they suggested that driver. So as we mentioned before, all those score factors are weighted differently. And essentially, if you look, you'll actually see the equation that goes through there. So the score was 71 out of 100 multiplied by 1.7 and added a base point here to give me a total of 121. Now, each driver has their own score based off of that logic, where they are currently, and you can see where they are and what their map looks like by mapping in those routes. So you can see, where all those steps are, where the new orders are going to be added. And then you can determine, of course, which driver you want to assign it to with this button up here. But as I go down, you'll see all the different factors and all the different scores for each one of those orders. And you can see it's pretty close race here. So, maybe I didn't want Charlie V to have this and I'm trying to figure out what the biggest score was. Oh, I can see the preference was a lot different. Maybe I need to, change the weight of that field or maybe change the preference for that driver just to make sure, that is giving me exactly what I want for my results. And then just to show you real quick, the optimization analysis, like I said, is my favorite tool for this because it's actually going to show me the added minutes and added miles to their route. So obviously the driver with the lowest impact right here, it has a 190 score. It's only adding in 42 minutes and 25 miles to their order, where this one's adding in 51 minutes, so they have a lower score. Right. So now what's really nice about this too is if you're going through the setup and you can't find a driver, you actually have the option up here to see a particular driver. So if you do go in there and click an option and say, I want to see why driver number 1 or driver number 2 wasn't there, you can search for that driver and it's going to give you the option, the examples as to why that driver is not there. So for example, this driver wasn't logged into their phone and hasn't been on their GPS for that time frame that we set. And then of course the proximity to the pickup, they're way too far out of range for that order and it's not within their working area. So it's not in the state of New Jersey or something like that. So it will not allow that driver to take that job, which would really help, as you're setting this up and making sure everything you want to have is there. You always have the option to view the decision that the system makes there. So it does give you the ability to check your work and of course make tweaks as you go. So now that was the one-off assisted dispatch. I'm going to show you the assisted dispatch with multiple orders, what that looks like. So now again, it's going to do everything that it was doing before. It's going to locate those drivers. It's going to throw those orders into those drivers' routes. And basically what's going to happen is unlike before where you're going to get a score factor, you're actually just going to get the suggestions from the system for each individual order in a list. So we'll see that right now. So now it's saying this one should go to driver number 4 and this one should go to driver number 11. If I agree with that, I can apply it. If I disagree with any of them, I can hit this little button here and that will not apply that change, but it'll apply the others. Okay. And then of course I can actually see the score data for each individual order if I do decide to look at why that driver was chosen over another. And then last but not least is the user-generated auto dispatch. So that's when you click on this, the system goes through its logic, but instead of asking you this time, it's just going to do what what that logic tells it to do. So it's not going to suggest, it's going to assign. So you'll see now Charlie V has been assigned. Now again, assigned. And then of course, the last one will pop up. And then you'll get a list view similar to what you had before, except now you're not going to have the apply button. It's just going to move those orders down on the dispatch board to that driver. And you're going to get, again, the results for that and the score factors for each individual order that's there. So now if I close this, you'll see all those orders have been removed from the top and dispatched down. And it pairs really nicely with the optimization. As you can see, my route is already sequenced and I have my ETAs for those orders as well. So it took my route planning and decision making for those orders from an hour, maybe an hour and a half, down to a couple of minutes, just clicking a button to either ask the system what's the best decision or allowing the decision to be made by the system itself. Now, the last place you can actually do this as well is go into the dispatch map. You do have the ability to actually auto assign in here. If I go ahead and click on the show assignment mode, you can actually click on an order and auto an assisted dispatch from the dispatch map as well. Now, that's a fairly new feature. So that's pretty much brand new for you guys. You may not have realized as well. The draw shapes are in there as well. But yes, you can absolutely auto an assisted dispatch right from the dispatch map as well. So that pretty much wraps it up. I see we got about 8 minutes left, which is a good time frame for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to the questions here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can go ahead and see any chat, any questions that may have. Looks like there's a lot of questions in here. All right, so first question was, can we set preference to 0 if you don't want it to be a consideration? Yes, you certainly can set those multipliers to 0 there. So that will prevent that from being considered. We might want a zip code to be sent to driver X. Okay. At the moment, Adam, the zip codes are not, so you use that working area, but it's not like a list of zip codes or zones that's applying to that automatic dispatch. So when they assign that, it's not going to look at the zoning scheme. It will look at that working area. So you can draw the shape, but if it's just one zip code, that might be a little bit tough. But we can talk through that a little bit further. Hassam, I see your question there. We can certainly talk about that afterwards, just asking if we have customers in different areas. We can work through that with, talk to your salesperson with that, and we could set you up, if there's somebody you want to talk to or something like that. Tony Lavoie's question here, does the auto dispatch consider the due times on orders with distance? Those would be top priorities for us. Absolutely. So basically, it's going to use those time frames as what's called. Basically, what happens is if you try to assign an order, it's going to say does not pass optimize injection point. So if you try to assign an order through that auto dispatch, and maybe it's supposed to be picked up at 1:55, and you have drivers throughout in different places, it's not going to assign that automatically because it is going to say, hey, this doesn't, it doesn't reach that time frame. Or if you try to assign a job that is going to make anything else late, again, it'll tell you it does not work, and it will not allow you to add that to a driver to make that route late. Yeah. Opposite. Sorry, guys. Just a lot of questions here. Opposite twins question. Distance from hub to delivery. Okay. What accelerator build has this features? I don't know exactly which one it was when it came out. We can look in the system update there and see when it came out. I don't have the exact build off the top of my head. If anybody else listening does have that build off the top of their head, let us know. Look here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Ooh, all right, bunch more questions popping in. I'll get that build to you, Joe, to make sure you can see that. Okay, sorry, just still looking through some of these questions here. All right, so what is the biggest challenge with clients moving forward? I mean, basically, it's just getting clean data. So we've had a couple problems where people have really old orders in their system, or orders that don't really, the time frames versus their pickup and delivery addresses don't make a lot of sense. So it's really just clean data in, clean data out. So you really want to make sure that when you set this up, you have good data that you're working with. So start small and then kind of build from there. And then, of course, constantly adjusting that, right? So we've noticed people put in some factors, it doesn't do what they want to do, and then they just kind of like wash their hands of it, as opposed to, okay, well, why didn't it do what I wanted to do? All right, because it's weighting this category too high, or this service wasn't enabled, right? Use the tools that are in there to kind of help you set that up. Because like I said, it's still a system that's got to learn from what you need it to do. So when you make those changes, just keep working through those changes to make sure everything looks good. And then once you're comfortable, then you can, use the assisted dispatch, and then, at that point, go into fully automation if you have the ability to do so. How frequently does the system refresh? I believe it works off of the dispatch refresh rate. So as it's refreshing here, when you refresh that, if a decision is made, once that system refreshes, it'll drop the orders down or remove the orders. It's a new capacity pop back into the available findings. Yes, and then once, if the order is deleted or canceled and removed from that driver, all the capacity gets updated and everything else from a new driver at that point. Yes, Chris, you could set this to work only specific hours in the driver file. They have a working schedule, so you can determine when that driver is available to do so. And then, that's really going to be, if there's no drivers available, there's no auto dispatch. So that's basically how you would set that to work. We do have customers doing that after hours. So anything, beyond 6 o'clock, they have 5 drivers on standby. The system looks at where they are, what they have in their vehicle already, and then go ahead and assigns that down to that driver. Adam, yes. So mobile tech implications. So using this in tandem with the sequencing, as the driver gets assigned that order, the system does sequence those jobs. If the driver does go out of order, the system will re-optimize those stops, and then take those new ETAs and new sequences into consideration when assigning a new job for that. All right, looks like we're at the allotted time here. I do see quite a few more questions. What we can do is we'll have one of your account reps here. We'll reach out to you, answering some of these questions. So we'll get to those. But I do appreciate everybody hopping in and walking through this with us. And like I said, we'll address these questions, and any other follow-ups or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to your account rep. We'll be happy to walk you through a little more depth for you and help you set this up. All right, guys, have a great day. Oh, when will we'll get the recording? I'm not sure exactly when, but I will we'll send it out. We'll send out a notification for you.